Hey, plant managers out there, welcome back. Keeping those utilities humming and finding good people, it's a lot sometimes. It really is.
Yeah, it can be tough for sure.
It's like juggling chainsaws on a unicycle some days, right?
Yeah.
But what if I told you there's a tool out there that can make your life easier? Something that sounds super futuristic, but is actually closer than you think.
You're talking about AI, right?
Exactly. And that's what we're diving deep into today.
It's funny how many people think AI is just for those big tech companies, but it's really not. More and more plants are using it every day.
And you know what? That's especially true for the problems you mentioned. Utilities and finding those skilled workers.
Exactly. AI can help with all of that.
So for all of you listening out there who hear AI and think robots taking over the world,
Right.
Can you break it down for us? Like, what is AI really?
Absolutely. At its heart, AI is just using computers to crunch a bunch of data to find patterns that we might miss.
Okay.
And then make predictions based on those patterns.
Predictions about what?
So think about those challenges we talked about before. Smooth utility supply, cutting down on fuel use, finding and training new workers. AI can actually play a role in all of that.
I see.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at those one by one.
Sure.
First up, keeping those utilities running like a well-oiled machine.
Okay.
How can AI help with something like steam traps?
So we found this really cool real-world example.
Oh, yeah.
From a company called, I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah.
They've actually developed a system that uses AI to monitor steam traps for leaks 204/7.
Oh, wow.
You know how hard those tiny leaks can be to find, right?
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Especially with manual inspections.
It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack.
Yes.
Except the haystack is super hot and might burn you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a pain, and not to mention how much energy and money those leaks waste.
How much are we talking?
We're talking 70 kilograms of steam every hour
Wow.
from a leak that's just 4 millimeters wide.
70 kilograms per hour just from a tiny little leak.
It's crazy, right?
It's a lot of wasted money.
Yeah, and it's bad for the environment, too.
Okay, so this AI system, it's basically like having an extra set of eyes watching those steam traps all the time.
Rude. It's even better than that. It's like having a superpowered steam detective on the job 24/7, catching those leaks early, giving you solid data, and helping you figure out what to fix first.
No more guessing games.
Exactly.
I like it. So AI can help us with utilities, but what about saving fuel and being better to the planet?
That's where AI-powered predictive maintenance comes in. Imagine if you could spot equipment problems before they even happen.
Oh, man, that would be a game changer.
Right.
Less downtime, lower repair costs.
Yeah.
Probably a lot less stress for everyone.
Exactly. We actually found this video from H2O.ai that shows exactly how it works.
So cool.
Let's say you've got a turbofan engine, right?
Okay.
Sensors are collecting data on everything: temperature, vibration, pressure. And the AI is analyzing all that data to figure out what's normal for that engine.
So it's like the AI is learning how the engine should run when everything is good.
Exactly. And then when the data starts to look even a little bit off, the AI knows something might be wrong.
It's like an early warning system,
Yes.
letting us know there's trouble brewing before things go haywire.
That's it.
But how does that help us save fuel and cut down on emissions?
Well, think about it. If you can catch those problems early, you can often fix them with just a few tweaks. You don't have to wait for a major breakdown that needs a ton of energy to fix. Plus, when your equipment is running smoothly, it uses fuel more efficiently anyway.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. It's a win-win for our wallets and for the environment.
Exactly.
Okay, so we talked about utilities, we talked about fuel. But let's talk about the big one, finding those skilled workers. How can AI help us with that, especially when fewer young people are going into these trades?
That is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
AI can help in a couple of ways. First, it can make those jobs more appealing. Think about it. You can offer young people the chance to work with cutting-edge technology
Oh, right.
to solve interesting problems.
Yeah.
Be part of a team that's really pushing the boundaries.
Oh, it's not just about the job itself. It's about creating a workplace that's exciting and future-focused.
Exactly.
Cool.
And second, AI can actually help with training people who already work for you.
Oh, really?
There are platforms like Praxi that use AI to make custom training programs
Cool.
that are tailored to each person's needs and how they learn best.
So instead of sending everyone off to some expensive training, we can use AI to bring the training to them.
Exactly. It's way more efficient and effective for everyone.
I'm starting to see how this AI thing isn't just some far-off dream. It can really help us tackle some of the biggest challenges plant managers are facing. But let's be real. Bringing AI into a busy plant that's already up and running, it's not as simple as just flipping a switch, right? Where do we even start?
That's a great question, and it's one we'll dive into in the next part of our deep dive, so stay tuned.
Right, sounds good. Okay, so we've talked about how AI can be a real game changer for plant managers, even for those of us who are more comfortable with a wrench than a computer. But let's get down to the nitty-gritty. How do we actually bring AI into our plants? We can't just rip everything out and start from scratch, can we?
No, you're absolutely right. Implementing AI isn't about starting over. It's about working with what you already have. It's more about evolving your systems.
So it's about making what we have better, not replacing it entirely.
Exactly. We read this blog post from Veriday, and they really stress that point. AI needs to work alongside your existing systems.
Yeah.
Like SCADA.
Right, SCADA, our trusty command center.
Exactly.
So are we talking about feeding data from SCADA into the AI system?
Yeah. Think of it this way. SCADA is the foundation, and AI is that extra layer of intelligence on top.
Okay.
AI can take all that data SCADA is already collecting and find insights that we might miss. Right.
Okay, I see. But let's be honest. Sometimes the data from our systems is a little messy. You know, we've got old equipment, sensors acting up, and sometimes people make mistakes. Can AI really handle all that?
That's where data quality comes in. It's like the golden rule of AI. You put garbage in, you get garbage out.
Right.
If the data is bad, the results will be bad too. So before you even think about AI, you got to make sure your data is clean, accurate, and reliable.
So it's kind of like getting your ingredients prepped before you start cooking.
Exactly.
We got to make sure the data is top-notch before we feed it to the AI chef. But how do we even do that?
Well, you got to start by figuring out which data points are important for what you're trying to achieve with AI.
Okay.
What are you trying to predict? What are you trying to improve?
So if we're talking about that AI steam trap system we talked about before, we'd need data on things like pressure, temperature, flow rate.
Exactly. Once you know what data you need, you got to make sure your sensors are calibrated and working right. And that everyone's following the right procedures for collecting and storing data.
So it's about treating our data like it's valuable, which it is.
It is.
Makes sense. But let's talk about the people. Because some of the folks on the plant floor might be a little intimidated by this AI stuff. How do we get them on board?
Change can be scary, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember that AI is about helping people do their jobs better. It's not about replacing them.
Right.
It's about giving them the tools to work smarter, not harder.
So it's not about turning everyone into a programmer. It's about showing them how AI can make their lives easier.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that. AI is a helper, not a replacement. But what about the learning curve? Let's be honest, some of us are more comfortable with a wrench than a mouse.
And that's where training comes in. The good news is there are resources out there to help.
Oh, like what?
We talked about Praxi earlier. They have AI-powered training programs that are made for industrial settings.
Oh, that's cool. So we can train our people to be comfortable working with AI. That makes me feel a little better. But before we get too excited, what about the risks? What are the potential downsides?
That's a great question, and every plant manager should be thinking about that. We talked about data quality, but we also need to talk about data security.
Right.
You're dealing with sensitive information. You know stuff about your operations, your energy use, even your employees.
Absolutely. We can't just hand over all our data to some AI system without thinking about what could happen.
No, you can't. You need to do your homework on any AI vendor you're thinking about working with, just like you would with any other partner. Ask about their security measures, their privacy policies, their track record. Make sure you can trust them with your data.
So it's about due diligence.
Yes.
Making sure we're working with the right people.
Exactly. And you also need to think about where your data is being stored.
Okay.
Is it on your own servers or in the cloud?
Those are good questions.
Yeah.
We have to think about what works best for us in terms of security and how we do things.
Right. And don't forget about the legal side of things. Data privacy laws are getting stricter all the time.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
You got to make sure your AI system follows all the rules.
Okay, I'm taking notes. Data quality, security, training, compliance. It seems like there's a lot to think about before we jump into this AI world.
It's true. It's not as simple as just plugging in a new piece of equipment. But the potential benefits of AI are huge. It's worth it.
So are we talking about that smart factory of the future? Robots running the show, lights blinking, everything humming along perfectly?
Well, Maybe not robots running the show, but definitely a factory that uses data to make smarter decisions, optimize processes, and create a safer, more efficient workplace.
That does sound pretty good. But is it realistic? I mean, some of this still feels a bit like science fiction.
The funny thing is the future is closer than you might think. We've been reading about some amazing real-world examples of how AI is already transforming plant management, like this article in Processing Magazine called Transforming Plant Process Management with AI. It's really eye-opening.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What kind of future are we talking about here? Paint me a picture.
Imagine a plant where your operators can talk to the AI system like it's a person.
Oh, wow.
They can just ask things like, when was the last time this pump was serviced? Or what's causing this pressure drop?
Wow.
And the AI gives them clear answers that they can actually use.
So no more digging through piles of reports or trying to understand complicated data. The AI is like a personal assistant for the whole plant.
Exactly. And it gets even better. AI can analyze years of data from multiple plants and find patterns and solutions that no human could ever spot.
So it's like having the combined knowledge of the entire industry at your fingertips.
Precisely. And this isn't some far-off dream. It's happening now. We saw this video from Advantech, and they're already using these solutions in real plants.
Wow, so the smart factory is becoming a reality. This is all starting to sound less like science fiction and more like something that could actually benefit my plant. But before we get too carried away, let's take a step back and recap what we've learned so far.
Absolutely. We've covered a lot of ground, so a recap is definitely in order.
All right, so we've talked about the potential of AI for plant managers, everything from steam traps to predictive maintenance and even finding new talent. We've also talked about data quality security training. But before we wrap up, let's bring it all home for our listeners.
Okay.
Imagine you're back at your plant key. You're facing those same challenges we talked about. Where do you even start with AI?
Well, first take a deep breath.
Okay.
You don't have to become an AI expert overnight.
Right.
Just start by thinking about your biggest problems. Where are you losing the most time and money? Is it those steam leaks? Equipment breaking down? Having trouble finding qualified people?
Right. Find those areas where AI could really make a difference. Then what?
Then do your research. We've talked about some great resources in this deep dive, like that steam trap system from the H2O.ai platform for predictive maintenance and Praxi for training. See what's out there and what fits your needs.
So it's about finding the right AI solutions for our specific problems, not trying to do everything at once.
Exactly. Start small. Maybe try a pilot project.
Okay.
Something you can manage that'll show you the value of AI without overwhelming everyone.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But what if my plant isn't exactly state-of-the-art? What if my systems are a bit outdated?
That's a common concern. The good news is that AI can often be integrated with older systems.
Oh, really?
You don't need the newest equipment to get started. There are companies that can help you bridge that gap between your old systems and AI.
So it's like building a bridge to the AI world.
Yeah, exactly.
It's good to know. But what about my team? I've got people who've been with the plant for years. They're experts, but they might not be so comfortable with computers, let alone AI.
Those experienced team members, they're your goldmine. You have so much knowledge. And remember, AI is about helping them do their jobs even better.
Right.
Not replacing them.
So it's about giving them the tools to work smarter, not turning them into programmers.
Exactly. Think of AI as a really smart assistant. It can take care of the data stuff and let your team focus on what they do best.
I like that AI as an assistant. But what about security? We talked about it before, but it's a big deal for me. We've got a lot of sensitive information to protect. How do we make sure that data is safe?
You're right to be concerned about that. Data security is super important. Remember those best practices we talked about.
Yeah.
Vetting your vendors, carefully thinking about data storage options, staying on top of regulations.
Right, those are all important. But are there any other tools or techniques that can help with AI security?
Definitely. There are things like differential privacy, which adds a little bit of noise to the data.
Noise.
Yeah, it makes it harder to identify specific details, but you can still see the overall patterns. It's kind of like blurring out faces in a picture. You can still see the group, but you can't tell who each person is.
I see what you mean. And what about that federated learning thing you mentioned before?
Yes. Federated learning lets you train AI models on data from lots of different sources without actually sharing the raw data.
Oh, interesting.
It's like the AI is learning from everyone's experience without anyone having to give up all their secrets.
Well, it's good for security and for collaboration.
Exactly.
This has been really helpful. We started out feeling a little overwhelmed by AI, but now I'm starting to see how it can really help us solve those tough problems that plant managers face every day.
I'm glad to hear that. We hope this deep dive has helped you see the potential of AI and maybe even get excited about the future.
It's time to unlock the power of data and see what our plants are really capable of.
This is the Deep Dive signing off.